Hey guys, my name is Raj.
And my name is Kush.
We will be talking you through how to do the free response question, the last free response question on your first exam.
The first topic one assignment, right?
Yeah.
So
So,
we have Dr. Java open, and I hope you guys can see the Dr. Java window.
and you guys can read the instructions that were given.
So write a complete Java class called shoes, which has a constructor, two class methods, and a main method which should behave as specified below.
Okay, so we're just gonna literally talk you through how to do it, and as we approach problems that we believe you guys uh, may have also come across, we will point out some tips and also some common errors that we witnessed while grading your exam.
So firstly, we'll start by creating the class, which is usually public class, and we need to name our class shoes, right?
As said on the instructions.
So there was a question on Piazza that asked about curly braces opening on the same line or on the next line like this. So this actually doesn't make a difference to the compiler. The compiler reads it the same way, just that this improves readability. You can see that you can utilize the next line straight away by declaring any variable or starting off with another function or something like that. But if you have a curly brace on the very next line, you won't be able to use that, and you'll be able to use the third line after the public class, which is not too bad, but we would rather have it this way. Now moving ahead with the requirements of the question.
So the first requirement is having a constructor. The constructor should have an empty method body. So the constructor has to have the same name as the class. That's a requirement which you have to follow. And since it doesn't have any, it has an empty body, you don't need to fill anything inside the curly braces.
Right, I'm just going to go ahead and increase the tab spaces that Dr. Java gives me by default, and also add line numbers so that it makes it easier for you guys to read it.
And for us to discuss.
Oh, here, no, where's the tab thing? Here, it doesn't really matter. Okay. Yep, that works
Okay.
now. Um, and so now public shoes. That's the first constructor that we have. And what does it
Empty
need?
parentheses.
So every constructor obviously is a
Okay.
method. So the empty parenthesis follows after shoes.
So that's one error which we saw often. People forget the fact that every method should have parentheses regardless of whether you're taking in parameters or not. So if you are not taking any parameters, just keep it empty, but the parentheses have to be there.
Yep. So the constructor, what it does is it has an empty method body. So we don't really need anything in there.
So we have now completed the first requirement.
Now the second one would be method.
We need the first method called good shoes.
So public good shoes. What return type does it have is the first question you ask, because there are three components to the method definition. The public, which specifies what kind of access you want to give to the method. Then comes the return type, which can be a string
In this
or
case, as the instructions tell
an
you,
integer.
we need a string. They can also be Boolean, but in this case, we are
String?
yeah.
Okay. And then a good shoes is the
Name
method
of the
name.
method and parentheses.
So I always close the braces before starting the method so that you know you don't forget and you don't lose track of which braces are open when and which need to be closed, because once you start writing long programs, you might you tend to get confused whether this brace relates to the main, or this brace relates to the class, or brace relates to the method.
Okay. So now this method needs to return the string value. I really like your shoes. And there are two ways to do this. You can either directly return that string, or you can store that string as a variable.
Or what we can do is just string I really like your shoes.
You need to call it something.
Yep. Oh, sorry.
STR.
String state str. Okay. And
So another thing I'd like to point out is that people tend to forget the semicolon at the end of at the end of every statement. Please remember that this semicolon is what tells your program that you have now reached the end of your statement.
so what this does is the two different methods show you how you can actually create a variable. You would be using up some memory and you'll be returning that, or you can return a string straight away. Both are the same to the compiler, and as soon as this method is done executing, the string str ceases to exist. It basically, all of the memory that it used to occupy when good shoes was running now is free for use for the rest of the program.
So what string str in this case is a local variable. It is not a global variable. Kush is now creating a global variable called name. This variable can be accessed by all and every method, whereas the string str cannot be accessed by any method outside of good shoes.
So the major difference between a global and a local variable would be that the name variable would be alive in the program's memory for as long as the program is running, not as long as the specific method is running. So any single method that we create, or any single main, or every single part of the program will be able to access name, but not str, because it's a local variable.
So now we'll go on to the next method, which is bad shoes.
Yes.
This method also returns a string.
Now, same.
Same as before,
we go string str equals what str2.
Let's call it str1 so we can show you the difference between a local and global variable.
Okay. So
if for example,
if for example this was str, right?
Yeah,
So
no,
we don't need that then.
So what I'm trying to say is that yes, what I'm trying to say is that the string str, which is in good shoes, will not be accessible in the method bad shoes because it doesn't exist there. And similarly, string str1, which exists only in bad shoes, will not be accessible in the method good shoes.
So something like system dot out dot print ln str
will give you an error.
This would be an error because str doesn't exist in this function. On the other hand, if we've initialized name to something, say for example push, if we've initialized name to something like that and we print out push here inside any function,
this will not give you
this is not an error. So now we return the string str1. str1 gets returned and we have done what our method needs to do. Now the last, oh, I haven't closed that method.
See, this is why it's important to have both your parentheses.
Now comes the last method, which is the main method. Now main method is a really important method in the class because that allows for execution of whatever program that you're running. String args. So string args is a concept that will be explained to you
later, but
I
for
guess.
now you just need to remember the fact that the main method is always written this way.
Yeah, so string args is used to take input, which you don't need to worry about as of now, but yeah. Create a new shoes object. Now objects are instances of the class that you create. Now every single object basically has every single thing in the class, and you don't need to create multiple objects for accessing multiple functions. Now what we've seen in submissions for shoes class is that people created multiple objects saying shoes1 and shoes2 to call good shoes and bad shoes, which is not the way you're supposed to do it. You're actually wasting memory, and that actually does not hold the same values because the two different objects can hold two completely different values. That is what objects are used for. So say for example, we have a human class and we created two objects saying Kush and Raj Lakshmi. We may have the same variables, age, name, and address, but we don't have the same values for the variables, where my name is Tukush and her name is Rajalakshmi. So we're objects of the same class, but we have completely different values, and you need to take care of that. So you don't need to create two functions to two objects to access two functions.
Because essentially we are the same object.
Yep.
So this now creates the object of our class. Now we need to call the good shoes method and print the result onto the screen, and call the bad shoes method. Easiest way to do this is to print the return statement of each of the methods.
We've seen that a couple of places. You guys print it out in the function itself, and you don't return the string, and your functions have void return types. I would suggest you guys to just follow instructions properly and read the question carefully before attempting the question, and also while posting answers on Blackboard on tools like Blackboard. You usually tend to make mistakes like forgetting the semicolon, or minor mistakes that you would usually not do in text editors or IDEs like Dr. Java. So
Please keep in mind that it would be, especially since you guys are just starting out, it would be good to try compile your code before submitting it. That way you yourself will find errors which you wouldn't otherwise see while just writing your code.
yep,
So-
like Raj Lakshmi said.
So we're now going to try compiling this code.
Let's save it as shoes.java.
Yeah, it is already.
It's already there?
Yeah, because the file format says
Oh.
it's got Java.
Okay, so I'll just save it in Kush. Fine.
Okay.
We got an error.
Yes.
So yeah,
Like-
that is an error, like we said.
Like we mentioned before, that will give you an error because str is a local variable stored in good shoes and not accessible in bad shoes.
On the other hand, name would print out just fine. So let's compile that. S dot good shoes. Oh, we didn't include the parentheses.
See, It's always
Small
good.
errors. We still
It's-
make it. We're still ashamed of it, but we still make it.
that's why it's good. It's a good idea to compile
Compile
your
it.
code
Yep,
before
precisely.
you-
Return. So this return statement cannot be reached because
you're
we're already returning something. So this was just to show you guys that
There are two ways.
there are two ways of
the
doing
same
this.
thing.
Yep, precisely. Now, awesome. Now we have compiled this, and we don't really need to print this. We just needed to show you that this works. Now compiling it and running it would give you both of the statements printed out just fine, one after the other, without any problems. Hope that clears out all of your doubts
Errors
and
doubts.
errors.
And if you felt that you weren't able to successfully create your shoes class during the exam, please have another go at it. Practice always helps.
Also, yeah, as soon as you have a doubt or a problem, you face a problem, just post it on Piazza. We're more than willing to help. We still don't see a lot of comments in your code, and we would love to just make sure that you guys are understanding what you guys are writing.
And if you yourself are not entirely sure of what exactly your code is doing or why it's not compiling, if you comment that area, or if you have a method which you worked on before and you feel the logic is correct, but for some reason it's not giving you the right output, you can comment it out instead of deleting it. And when we look at it, we might be able to figure out why you're having that problem.
Now, another thing that I just want to introduce you guys to is a concept of multiple instructors in a class. Say, for example, this is the default constructor, which is not having any parameters. Default constructor. Sorry. Without parameters. Now, say for example, we need to initialize an object with values like shoes name, string name, right?
Or shoe name.
Shoe name, and
Shoe
size, in size, right? And we create another global variable called size. Now, what this does is it allows for the user to create an object with these specific attributes for the class. Now, equals awesome. So what this means is that the this operator actually refers to the global variable, and you don't need to initialize the string name anymore because your constructor is doing that for you. Now, this is not necessary in the first statement because this operator, this keyword rather, refers to the global variable and not the local variable. Now, what we mean by the local variable is that the parameters that are passed inside the constructor are local variables. So this is necessary for the compiler to understand that this dot size refers to line 23, and the size after the assignment operator, which is the equal to, refers to line 29, which is a parameter. Awesome. So I hope you guys understand the concept of this. It may be confusing, but you usually use the this keyword in cases where the parameter name is the same as the global variable name.
Also, when you want to call, rather than the default constructor, you want to call the other second constructor, which has parameters. It when you initialize or when you create an object of your class, what you have to do is put in the parameters in here. So you will need your shoe name,
Which is, you can just start showing, like just write Nike. Size is 10. No, int.
yeah, it's an int.
So this would create uh, an object which has object 2 which has values different from object 1, and doing and maybe performing some different functions on S1 would give you different output than performing some different functions on S. I would just write to comment this, the fact that this would be a parameterized constructor. So these are the two types of constructors: default constructors and parameterized constructors. There can be multiple parameterized constructor also. We can have another function which has just a single parameter, and to create
has
that,
even more parameters.
or has 10 parameters. I mean, it's all up to what the class needs. I hope this clears out your concepts, and I hope this helps.
Thank you for listening to us, and
We'll talk to you
best of
later.
luck.
See ya.